Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Irish Sports Daily Happy Hour Show on Fridays. I'm Greg Flamong, and with me today is Tyler Wojciak of Locked On Irish, my good friend. He's back from Texas. He was in Texas last weekend in College Station for the football game. He brought the heat with him. We're both in Los Angeles. This is a rare occasion where we're both talking on the same time zone. Tyler, did you ever think that it would be as hot in Los Angeles as it is right now? Well, it is. I think it's about 105, 106 where you are. Did you ever think you would feel that in when you moved out here?
No, and I'm sure people are going to absolutely love listening to us LA folk complain about the weather when it's perfect, like 300 out of 365 days out of the year. But man, I have not experienced heat like this since last week in College Station. Like it was extremely hot and humid there. And then I got back to LA on like pretty early Sunday afternoon. It was fine. And then like Thursday, it kind of snuck up on me. I'm not looking at the Weather Channel every single day. And then I was like, oh my God, like it's really, really hot out. And then I actually put on the news and they're like, intense heat wave. It's going to, really do some damage to Southern California residents because, believe it or not, a lot of people, at least in my neck of the woods, don't have air conditioning. Fortunately, I do. So I'm able to do this and not sweating profusely. But yeah, man, it is pretty brutal outside.
Yeah. Like if you, I don't know. Are you like in Santa Monica?
Yeah, I'm like a couple miles from the water. It never gets that hot here.
In the beach cities, a lot of people, like you said, don't have AC because you get the ocean breeze all the time. And so it's always a thing. So people aren't prepared for it. It's crazy right now. It's crazy hot. All my children, like all their soccer games got canceled. We were talking about it before. And to be honest, like rightly so. Like sometimes it's like, hey, like you gotta just play through some stuff. Now it's kind of like this is a little much. So but we're weathering it and we're hanging out. I've got me a what do I got here, Tyler? I've got a lime Cutwater lime margarita.
Oh,
no
nice.
Free ads, but this is what I'm drinking. You got yourself
America's finest Pilsner, a Miller Lite. Some might say it's a little early. It is 1 p.m. on the West Coast, but I'm not working today. So in the spirit of happy hour,
you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. I'm between work right now. I'm working, but I'm not. I'm kind of. I have like an off time right now. So we're putting on a show. I'm going to talk to Tyler about his experience out in College Station, his vibes, where he thinks teams are at. I'm going to talk to Tyler about where he thinks the team is at, what he's concerned about, what he's excited about, and then we'll talk a little bit about the game, and then whatever comes up in the chat. We've got an over/under from Coach Humph here, so we're going to get to that in just 1 second. Tyler is out here looking good, but if you want to look better, then you go to esqclothing.com. And this is time sensitive. All right. Because ESQ is running a special to celebrate Notre Dame's 23-13 win over Texas A&M. ESQ is offering a 1 week only discount of 23% off everything online. That is everything that they have online, exclusive to Irish Sports Daily. ESQ's proprietary bamboo shirt has been seen on all your favorite Notre Dame players and coaches, and it's the perfect performance dress shirt for any occasion. It's softer and cooler than cotton, odor resistant, wrinkle resistant, and even machine washable. Go to esqclothing.com. Use promo code WIN, WIN, to get 23% off your order. Remember, this promo will end before Saturday's kickoff, so you want to get in it now. This is a one-time special just for this week, so you want to get on it, get your perfect fit, and you want to look good for all the occasions that you have. Tyler, we saw some explosiveness out of Notre Dame, especially Ge Price on his on the opening touchdown of the season. You know what? Like on a lot of the props, Tyler, I'll bet you Ge Price, people wouldn't have bet first touchdown score of the season, but that he is the winner to everyone who had who might have had some cash on that. But here's a question for Coach Humph from Coach Humph. More of a football prediction than it is a gambling question. The number is over under 7.5. The question is how many times this season Notre Dame has a 40+ yard run from scrimmage, and that's counting Texas A&M. So they already have one, right? They got one from Ge Price on the long touchdown run. And part two is if you take the over, how high would you have to rise before you would take the under. So what does the number need to be for you to take the under there? Did a little research on this. Going back to 2016 now, they have not pushed, they've hit the under every year except for one. Okay, so in 2019, they had seven runs of 40-plus yards. In 2016, I believe that it was 7 runs of 40-plus yards. And in 2017, it was 15 runs.
I was going to say, I feel like 2017 was the year. I felt like that.
So 2017 is the one time they hit the over, and that was the most explosive time. Here's the thing. I'm taking the over on this because I have compared Riley Leonard favorably to Brandon Wimbush from a running standpoint. I said he was a better throwing version of Brandon Wimbush. So I'm taking the over. I think they're going to hit the over fairly easily. Not to mention the fact that like Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love are home run hitters. So how long was the run, by the way, that got called back for holding? Was that 40 plus or was it just under? Was it like 37? Do you know offhand?
I do not know if it was over 40, but it was longer than the next play because they had the big run, they had the penalty, and then they had another big run that wasn't quite as long. But that was sort of a moment in the game where you're like, oh, they're starting to lean on him now a little bit because they had not had many runs or any plays like that really up until that point. And then to just rip them off back to back, that actually felt like a turning point in the game that was positive to Notre Dame, despite the fact that in the play previous that they had a big play called back because of a penalty. It was a weird situation there.
It's so we're basically close to 2. I think they're going to hit over on this. What is your call? What do you say? Over, under?
I would say over because 2015 or 2017, 15 is a ton. I don't think they're getting that. It literally felt like they were getting a couple a game, especially there at the end of the year, like the 33 trucking stuff. But obviously this offensive line is a little bit different than the one in 2017, but the running backs are different. Jeremiah Love is a home run hitter. Jadarian Price is a home run hitter. And then Riley Leonard is capable of breaking off a big run too. I mean, he had that huge run against Clemson last year when he just threw off 3 defenders. So you basically have 3 guys in the backfield who are capable of breaking off a long run. Plus, I mean, depending on how they rule it, if you get like Jaden Harrison or Jordan Faison once he's back healthy running a jet sweep, as long as it's not like the touch pass, in which case it's a reception, not a long run. If they physically hand the ball off to him, those are more options for you to break off a 40-plus yard run. So I would take the over. I think it'll end up being close to like 10.5. I think that's where I'd probably go with the under, maybe 9.5, but kind of in that range.
I was going to say 11.5 is where I might be taking, because I think 10 or 11 is the answer to this, and that might be low. But I think if it was 11.5, I'd be like, you know what? Actually, no. 12.5, I think, is where I would take the under on that. I'll say 12, 11 or 12 is where I would kind of put the number. But I think it's an explosive team. I think it is a good question. I think it's an explosive team. The only thing that gives me pause on this really is the fact that Marcus Freeman keeps talking about how they don't want to run Riley Leonard. Like Vamos, like Oscar's in here, Vamos Irish Oscar. He's saying Tyler calling for 600 rush yards. Like I'm on record to say I think Riley Leonard's going to run for 1,000. But like I feel like Marcus is just poo-pooing that. Stop.
Yeah, I mean he ran a lot and only had 63 against A&M.
I know. It's just but that's tough, right? Like when Brandon Wimbush played. When he played Georgia, like he didn't run for that many yards, right? And look, he ran for 803 on the season, but like Riley Leonard ran for more yards in the game against A&M than Notre Dame had total against Georgia in 2017. So it's possible. I think it's possible.
Pop quiz for you. How many rushing attempts did Cam Newton have at Auburn in 2010?
How many rushing attempts? Well, tell me how many yards he had.
1473.
Cam Newton almost ran for 1,500 yards in 2010.
Granted, he did have 14 games at the SEC championship and the national championship, but that is still a staggering amount.
How many rushing attempts? 1,400. I'm going to say 170.
264. So Auburn was not holding back at all. He averaged 5.6 carry. These are true rushing attempts. It doesn't look like he got sacked very often, but you want to talk about just not having any care in the world about potentially hurting your quarterback. 264 attempts is truly staggering. Now, granted, Cam Newton is one of one, but I don't know why when I've been thinking about Marcus Freeman saying he wants to hold him back a little bit, I'm like, look, I get it. He's coming off the injury and all that, but he's a big dude. So then I just started thinking about Cam Newton. I pulled up his stats, and I mean, that one season, my God.
That is unhinged. That is crazy. I can't. I honestly don't believe that. I can't. 264. There's no way there's a Notre Dame running back who has ever had that many. I mean,
Michael Dyer was the top running back. He had 182.
You know what's really concerning right now to me is so CFB Stats is something that we use, like a database I use a lot for these because it's a really good site in terms of just like finding out old stats. Your database used to go back to 2009 and now it only goes back to 16.
Oh, that's a bummer.
I don't like it. So I last year 210. Obviously not 222 the lead back. Kyron in 2021. He was very close to 211. Let's see, Josh Adams, 206. Not even close. 263. Definitely give him the Heisman. That is, geez. That's insane. That's
I don't think
stuff.
Leonard is going to be anywhere close to that.
No, he is. That is definitely true. He is not. No one will be close to that. All right, let's see. So Texas Chris said that was a cool day in College Station for this time of year. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, Tyler. Talk about your experience. I listened to your post-game show, or the one you released on Sunday after you landed. You dropped an F-bomb to describe how loud it was. What was that like? Was there any point other than when Jeremiah Love probably went into the end zone, were you like everybody else? It's like, that's when you felt like, oh, like I think Notre Dame's actually going to win this game. Where were you at during the game and things like that?
See, this is how messed up my mind is, and how I don't know if it's
not even then
torment. No, not only that, Greg, this is so sad. Not only did I I wasn't even convinced that Notre Dame would win. I immediately thought, did Texas A&M allow him to score? Are they one step ahead? I started, because the way that the hole just opened up right down the middle, like on the rewatch, obviously they were trying to tackle him. But from my vantage point, I was basically in the not in the end zone that he scored in. I was on the opposite end zone in the caddy corner. So it looked like he literally just ran right up the middle, and they didn't even try to tackle him. So I got excited, obviously, when he scored, but I was so confused. I was like, did they just let him? Why would they do that? Because I was looking at the timeouts and they still had a couple. It's like, that doesn't really make sense, because what my mind flashed back to was Toledo, Notre Dame, where if Finn, their quarterback, had just went down, Notre Dame didn't have any timeouts. They could have ran out the clock, kicked the game-winning field goal at the end. So that's what I immediately thought. Why did they let him score? But then I was like, it doesn't make sense. So anyway, yes, I didn't really accept the fact that Notre Dame was going to win that game until Christian Gray broke up that pass on 4th and 2. But as for the environment, I have to say it lived up to the hype. In terms of just like the physical structure of the stadium, it was really, really impressive. It was big. It was nice. It had old traditional parts, but also had the newer renovated parts post Johnny Manziel. They, like, the people in Texas at Texas A&M literally call it the house that Johnny built, because they said that in the 2 years that he was there and he was on his great run, they brought in $740 million of new revenue that they weren't expecting, which allowed them to finish the stadium, do a bunch of other stuff around campus and in College Station. And it felt like a big game. I mean, College Game Day was there. The crowd was rocking. The only thing, and I actually remember reading, I think it was Matt Freeman in his Sunday Thoughts pointed this out, they basically just murdered the vibe in the pregame by having a pregame show going on the loudspeakers while the players were out there warming up. Like, they really weren't playing music or anything. So that kind of fell off. But when Texas A&M came out of the tunnel and they were playing Power by Kanye West in the lead up, I got chills, man. It was like, man, football is back, and this is going to be a really tough place for Notre Dame to win. But credit to them. They came out ready to play. Marcus Freeman got them ready to go. And Notre Dame, for the most part, was able to keep that crowd in check. The only 2 moments during the game where it was like really ear-piercingly loud was when they scored the touchdown and when Notre Dame got the ball on that last drive. It was so loud, but it was really just a couple peaks throughout the game where it really
Yeah.
reached that fever pitch. But for the most part, it was kept to a minimum because Notre Dame was in control of the game for the most part.
Yeah, it's true. They never really let them like kind of crescendo like that, like where you gave them a chance to kind of like take it over. So I mean, that's just the flow of the game, right? Like that worked out well for Notre Dame. Did you know that the Power by Kanye West was like a thing for them?
I found out afterwards. They're like, oh, they brought back Power. They brought back Power. I was around mostly Texas A&M fans, and they did get really excited when that song dropped. But I also was just like, it's just a great pump up song. Like that song came out when I was in high school, and our band would play that. Like it was just, it was a perfect song in that moment. But I was at Georgia in 2019. I think that was a little bit louder, but part of the reason is because that they had more reasons to be loud. They won the game. They had some really big moments in that. So I think that's probably the loudest I've ever heard a stadium. Alabama in 2019 against LSU was super loud, but it's up there, man. It really did live up to the hype. The people were really nice. They were weird in their own way. Being a Notre Dame fan, I feel like we are a bit of a cult. They take that to a whole nother level and they like it. They're proud of it. Someone had a shirt on that said, like, we put the cult in culture. Power to you. If you're going to be in it, lean into it, I guess. But it was a really cool environment. And I really just can't say enough about the job that the coaching staff and the team did to be prepared for that, because it really never felt like it was too much for him.
Drunk Vigo with a comment. So many Irish fans celebrating like we beat Georgia. I think I honestly, I think that's correct. And it's funny. I was telling this to somebody, like, I don't even think A&M's like that good, but I was buzzing. Like I truly was. And I think it's because, you called it a program win on your show. And I thought, you know what? There was a lot for me personally, just riding on how I was going to feel about Marcus Freeman if they didn't win this game. Like I just thought to me, how you win, it just didn't matter to me. It truly doesn't. But if you find a way to lose, like I feel like the Ohio State game last year was really, I think, like truly the word is traumatizing. Like people were telling me like, hey man, like I'm sorry I couldn't watch your show. The post game, like just I couldn't watch it. I didn't want to be a part of. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to think about it. And I think it really I think that game more than any game that has happened since I've been on this beat was really hard on people. And I think people wanted a release from that. And I think that's why that people are so giddy about this game, because it was just, I think everyone kind of felt like, man, if Notre Dame can't win this game, you're in your third year of Marcus Freeman era. And look, Mike Elko's a good coach. And that's they have a very talented team, right? They have a lot of good athletes over there. Like their players are clearly talented, right? Like, I don't know that they're going to they're not a team that I expect to go like 10-2 or anything. Like if they finish 9-3 or 8-4, that would make sense to me just watching them. But I just think, man, if you can't do this with Mike Elko's been there for just a few months, I mean, what are we hoping for? Especially with the kind of the way the schedule sets up, into USC now, which looks like a tougher game than I think many people would have thought. But that's kind of how I felt about it. Did you feel any different about how, the game ended and the way that you approached it mentally with Marcus Freeman and everything?
I understand Drunk Vigo's point where it might seem like a bit of an overreaction given the opponent. And you're right. I'm looking at Texas A&M's schedule right now. They should be probably, I would say, 4-1 going up against Missouri at home in early October. Like I think they're going to beat Florida and I think they're going to beat Arkansas. After that, their schedule gets pretty tricky because they have Missouri, they have LSU a couple weeks later at home. And then after that, I mean, South Carolina at Auburn and then Texas to close out the year. Like I'm hopeful that this team ends up performing pretty well so that the win looks
Mhm.
better for Notre Dame. I don't know if they will, because I don't know if Connor Wigman is just a terrible quarterback or Notre Dame made him look terrible. We're going to find out in time. But I'm with you. It's kind of, since we've already referenced Kanye West on this episode, it's like that line where he's like, everybody's asking what I would do if I didn't win. I guess we'll never know. I
Yeah.
feel like the relief and the pressure of the fact that the team didn't lose that game, the fact that it
Yeah.
was just like a weight lifted off their shoulders and our shoulders as fans, that was the biggest thing. And you bring up the Ohio State game. I've said it before. That game like literally broke me in a way that I didn't even know was possible
Yeah.
at this age. But when you consider the buildup and how perfect everything about that weekend was for Notre Dame, they're back in the spotlight. They were the better team in that game. And then to still blow it, it just kind of makes you think like same old team, same old song and dance. And then there was a moment in this Texas A&M game where I had the same thought going through my head after they gave the ball up to Texas A&M. It's a tie game in the fourth quarter. And then, the defense came through and they got the ball back on offense. It's like, is this team capable of finally just making the drive and finishing it? And unlike in years past, this team did it both on offense and defense. Like both sides of the ball stepped up. Even special teams stepped up. I mean, Money Mitch 3 for 3. He was huge in that game. So, yes, Notre Dame did not beat Georgia. They still have a long ways to go. They still need like a win over the true elites of college football to get fully over the hump. But to just ignore the fact that this was a huge step in the right direction is just the wrong way to look at it, in my opinion. And look, man, we're fans of this team. We don't get many opportunities like this to get excited. We literally sit in the offseason for 8 to 9 months. If you can't enjoy the wins when you get them, then why do you do this? Why do you subject yourself to being a fan of anything, especially a fan of college football, which has the shortest season and the longest offseason? So when you get those moments, man, just enjoy them and stop trying to convince yourself for all the reasons why you shouldn't.
Yeah. In fairness to Drunk Vigo, he's just making an observation.
Yeah. This is not directed at him. This is more so directed at like other fans. Like,
it is just
why
like
do
it
they
is a
even
true
care?
fact.
Yeah.
Like people are celebrating like that, and I think for what we've gone over, like that's kind of why. Vamos Irish asks, which of these stats will be the highest tomorrow? Notre Dame picks, Notre Dame sacks, NIU touchdowns, or NIU field goals? Where are you at with this?
I think they're going to get a few picks off Ethan Hampton. That guy loves to throw interceptions. Don't think it's going to be NIU TD, so you can rule that out. ND sacks. That seems like the safe bet. I think they get after the quarterback a little bit because I thought they'd get after Wigman a little bit more in the backfield. I mean, they got some pressures. They forced him into making some errant throws, but they didn't really bring him down that much. So I think they'll get back on the right foot here, and I think ND sacks is going to lead the rest.
I agree because they could like. They won't have like 6 interceptions, right? Like I think they could have like 3, but I think they'll have like 6 sacks in this game. It's just like it's such a different level, where like things get turned up. I think they're gonna have to throw a lot. Like they don't want to, but I think they're gonna be losing, so they're gonna have to try to throw. Like I predicted 38-6, right? Like it's gonna be very hard for them. I think running the ball, I mean, they'll try for a little bit, but it's just not going to work out. I think sacks is probably the closest thing.
Okay, so you took 38-6. I predicted 27-6. So we're both on the same page with the defense. You're a little bit more optimistic about the offense. What would you guess the halftime score is?
I said the halftime score. I said the halftime score would be 17-3. That's what I said. I think they're going to struggle. Like struggle relative, right? Like I don't think they're going to like totally struggle bus, but like I think they are going to like there's things they got to work out, right?
Yeah.
Like I was not, and Jamie and I talked about this yesterday. I was not impressed with Notre Dame's passing game. I mean, obviously, right? And look, all caveats on the game plan was the way that the game plan had to be given the opponent, things of that nature, right? I understand. Just watching the tape and just like there wasn't a ton of separation that they got from the wideouts. Obviously, there was a lot of miscommunication with Riley Leonard and the wideouts. And Notre Dame didn't really try to do anything on offense that would actually damage Texas A&M in the passing game, right? Like they threw some slot fades, right? They never threw like a seam ball to a tight end. They didn't do any of that stuff. They threw one back shoulder to Bo Collins, which obviously he caught, but like they didn't try to take a shot Like, they didn't even try. And so I just think that there's a lot to work out for them on offense. And I think there's going to be some empty possessions in this game where it's like, I think they're going to have like 6 possessions in the first half. I think that, obviously I think they're going to score on 3 of them. I think they're going to score 2 touchdowns and have a field goal. But like, I think there's going to be times when it's like, man, like, I don't like empty possessions against NIU, and I think there's going to be a little bit of grumbling, right? And I think in the second half, it'll get cleaned up a little bit as NIU gets a little bit more desperate, right? There's one thing to hang into a game. They're going to have to try to chase it a little bit. I think they're going to get a little bit more desperate, maybe get a short field. But I think eventually they'll figure it out. But I think in the beginning, it's going to be a little struggle bus. So that's kind of where I come out.
So you're kind of looking at it similarly to the Central Michigan game last year, where Notre Dame was actually only up a touchdown at halftime in that game. They gave up 2 touchdowns in the first half, and then the second half they outscored them 20-3. Something similar.
Yeah, sure. I don't remember it that way, but yeah, something like that.
Central Michigan, Notre Dame was like dominating that game, but they got a cheap touchdown there right before the half. So technically the scoreboard was close. And I just remember getting some text from people at halftime. That's why it's sort of been on my mind. Also this week too, I picked 27-6, which is not, a very emphatic win over a team like Northern Illinois.
Definitely not. Not covering.
My whole point was the defense is going to shut them down. Notre Dame is never going to be in legitimate danger of losing this game. But to think that the offense is just going to figure out all of their problems in the span of a week going up against a MAC team who actually, they're not a great defense, but there's enough good players on that defense that they're going to win some reps. So my whole point was like, I just expect a slow start. Now, Notre Dame could come right down the field and score because Northern Illinois could be shocked, but I think that there will be a bit of a slog throughout the end of the first quarter and throughout the second quarter. So I don't really expect Notre Dame to break away unless, of course, the defense comes through. They get a couple interceptions, fumble recovery, short field for the offense, and then maybe it just makes life easier on them. But yeah, I think the offense, particularly the passing game, Notre Dame is going to try to push it a little bit more because they can be a little bit more aggressive. Unlike against Texas A&M, according to Pro Football Focus, they didn't throw one ball over 20 yards through the air, except for the Jaden Greathouse one. I think that was over 20 yards, but they just called the pass interference, so that technically doesn't go down as a play. I think they're going to try to throw the ball downfield a little bit more. I think Chris Mitchell's going to get a shot, maybe even KK Smith. I don't know if they're going to hit those early on. If they do, then yeah, this will be a blowout. It'll never be close. But I'm with you. I see some empty possessions, and I think fans are going to be frustrated. But look, it's a long season. As Mike Denbrock has repeated over and over again, this offense is going to look a lot different by the end of the year. And I think that the development, at least through the early part of the season, might not be what fans want. But in my opinion, as long as it's figured out by the Louisville game, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, like I think and that's the beauty of beating Texas A&M is like struggles on offense now don't really matter because you won the game that you needed to win already. Now it's something to monitor, right? Like you gotta call it what it is, right? Like if they continue to struggle passing, then you got to feel like, okay, it is more likely than not that they are not going to be a great passing team. Just from a probability standpoint, right? And those are the issues that they got to work out. They do have to work them out. It's not impossible, but if you go the first 2 weeks and they can't hurt teams vertically and they can't hurt teams, like even trying it, like if they came out and tried it and for whatever reason they didn't connect, then I'd be like, okay, you need to connect on these things. But if they're still doing this like 5.5 air yards per attempt, like I'm gonna be like, hey, like this isn't. You're not gonna be dangerous offensively if you're playing this way. Like you do need to be vertical. You need to push the ball. So that's something to monitor. Rajon asks, should I be disappointed if Notre Dame doesn't get 200 yards rushing? I mean, I think no. I think the offensive line, like we're gonna see them. I think we're gonna see them be a little, sloppy in this game. Like. Just because they came up with a performance against Texas A&M, right? And by the way, like before the last drive, they they had not come up with a performance. You know what I mean? So it just kind of, they had played well to that point. You know, I'm not saying they hadn't, but like the tie game with 5 minutes left or whatever, like there's still a lot of work to be done, and they figured it out at the end, and that's good, right? But it doesn't just be like, okay, they played well against Texas A&M and they were able to run the ball at the end, therefore they're ready to dominate now. I don't think that's how it works, and I think we got to be patient with it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I do think we'll see some explosives, because I just think with Price and Love back there, they're just explosive guys, and you're always going to get that. But I think Notre Dame's got to be patient with it. What do you say? What do you say on this?
Yeah, I would say no. You should be disappointed. Also, with the understanding that we don't expect Riley Leonard, who is one of their better assets in the running game, we don't expect him to be utilized that much, because they're going to try to protect him. I think he's going to run. Like, his run plays are probably going to be scrambles or just read options when it's wide open. But I don't think that Notre Dame is going to run a lot of the 5 wide, just quarterback power that they're running there at the end, which is a great play. Like, I'm not criticizing them for running it. I just don't think they're going to do it all that often against NIU to sort of save his legs. And at that point, like, if Love and Price are able to get 200 yards on their own, then that's really impressive. But I also think that they're going to try to put Aeneas Williams in there a little bit. I don't know if Price and Love are going to be out there for the entire game to try to get those young guys some reps. So no, I would be more disappointed if they gave up over, let's say, 4 tackles for loss, not including sacks, because they gave up 7 to Texas A&M, even though Riley Leonard didn't get that was too many negative plays. But then again, that's a much better defensive line.
Right.
They can't have as many just run stuffs this week. That would be more disappointing. Like, I'm more focused on that than the actual total rushing yards number.
Yeah, if you're running for 5 yards a clip, right?
Yeah.
You're not breaking big ones, but you're also not getting completely dominated, like you're having busts. Like that's a good point you just made. That's important, right? Like, because you don't want to get just stuffs over and over again.
Yeah,
understandable last week, not so much this week. Jason Smith, I think, brings up a good point. My biggest thing I'm looking for is the same compete level and intensity. First of all, you're not getting that. It's almost impossible.
It's literally
that's
what I've been saying all week.
But
literally not possible.
But there is a difference between, you're not at the level of last week, and you're not at the level of, like, they should. Because here's the thing: Notre Dame is a different kind of program than like Texas or like Georgia, where it's like, you've done this already recently, right? Like, Notre Dame is chasing something as a university, as a program, that they haven't done in like 40 years, right? Like, they talk about national titles, right? And they want to get to the playoffs, but you like want to be a great team. And like, you need to be thinking about dominating your opponent every week. And this would be just like this would be a statement, just like last weekend was a statement, in that if you go out and wreck this team, then it's like, hey, we had a tough game last week, but we're real. Like, we're a real team, and we just wipe these dudes off the field. And that's how it's going to be, like, that is in play for them. And
Absolutely.
and so I think this is a good point by Jason Smith, where it's like, hey, like, that the 2018 team, we talk about Ball State a lot, talk about Toledo a lot. Obviously Marshall, that was kind of a different thing. I think the Toledo thing is kind of like, that wasn't a great team, right? 2021 was not a great team, despite their record. 2018 was a very good team, right? And they had a quarterback problem that, had to get sorted. Plus Dexter Williams wasn't playing. But like, there's really no excuse for Notre Dame not to kind of strongly wreck this team, right? Even with some struggles, right? From an intensity standpoint. Like, I just think they should be able to do it. So I think this is a good point by Jason. Where do you come out on it?
I agree. I think every point that you made, like, if they do come out and they dominate this team, like, Northern Illinois is good enough that a dominant performance to me would really matter. And it would show that this team is focused, they prepare the right way this week, and they are going out to dominate. And I think if you look back to that 2020 team, I think that was a really good Notre Dame team. Sure, they had some flaws, but there wasn't a moment in that season where I really thought, oh, wow, this team is really, really good and they have a chance to be special until they throttled Pitt. And that
Mhm.
wasn't until October. They had a
Yeah.
slower start. Now, obviously, anytime you reference 2020, you have to mention the fact that that year was so weird in so many different
Very
ways.
strange season.
Like the team was ramping up as the season was going along because they didn't have as much time in the preseason. But usually it takes a couple weeks for the team to really kind of get to that point where everything is clicking and they can put their foot on the gas and not have to really try. It's just their nature. If it
Mhm.
happens in week 2 with this team, then I will be very glad to be wrong because I think it's possible. I don't think it's going to happen because all the reasons we mentioned, like it's just kind of hard to bring that level of competitiveness and intensity every single week. But man, if they do it, that would be a statement, and I would feel even more confident about this team going forward if they're able to put that great win behind them, lock in on Northern Illinois, and go out there and dominate. Like I'd feel really good about it. I'm just not predicting that to happen, but I've been wrong many times before.
Yeah. From the stadium, what kind of struck you about the team that I don't know, just it could be anything, random thing.
I would say in the moment, um, I was blown away by how many guys are going out there on defense. And every time I was like, oh, wow, that was a good play by Osprey. Oh, wow, that's a good play by
Yeah.
Drake Bowen, specifically the young linebackers, because that
Yeah.
was something that was really like kind of keying on in the crowd. Like it's really hard when you're at the game to really be focused. Like I was watching Anthony Knapp a lot. I was watching Riley Leonard a lot. And then on defense, I was kind of just monitoring the linebackers because we had heard about this 5-man rotation a lot through preseason camp. But it's like, okay, it's one thing to say that in the preseason. What about when your season opener is on the road against an SEC team? Are you really willing to rotate 5 guys, especially when the majority of them are either freshmen or sophomores? And then the one junior, Jalen Sneed, even he hasn't really played that much. But nope, they stayed true to what they said they were going to do. They rotated him a ton. And I was just so impressed by them. And I was also impressed by Notre Dame on the sideline. It just, from my vantage point, I was kind of behind them and I could see the
Mhm.
coaching staff going around. Like Al Golden is not a big rah rah, like screaming, yelling guy. Honestly, unlike Mike Denbrock, as we saw in that video that Notre Dame put
Yeah.
out,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, he goes to the sideline and it is like D line, linebackers, secondary, position group, position group, position group. And it's just like all business. They are so locked in and focused. They never really got that crazy hype until Christian Gray stuffed that pass on 4th down. Like they were so focused. And that's why I felt so confident that defense the rest of the way. I'm like, this defense is not, they're not going to move the ball on this group. Like they are so dialed in. They're so good. And it doesn't matter who's out there. Like whether it be Leonard Moore and the 5 plays he was out there, they were just so locked in and focused. And I was even more impressed with that unit than I thought I'd be going into it.
Yeah. Text Chris makes a good point. Like we legit have 5 starters at linebacker. I truly believe that if for whatever reason they only had 2 available and you had to play those 2 the whole game, I think Notre Dame would be totally fine. I think they would be no problem, right? If you say, hey, it's got to be Kaiser and Sneed the whole game, great. I'm fine with it. Let's go. You know, if it's Bowen and Osbury, like, and that's true because, and I made this point yesterday with Jamie. The second after Notre Dame, after A&M tied the game at 13, and then Notre Dame had the ball and they had to punt, and it goes back to Texas A&M. It's like, I don't know, 6 minutes left in the 4th quarter. I mean, this game is the season essentially, right? Like this is a very big game, right? And it's winning time. And you're sitting there with 6 minutes left in the 4th quarter. It's a tie game, and Max Bulla sends out Drake Bowen and Jaden Osbury as his linebackers, and they make the plays and get off the field. Like that is, it doesn't matter who it is. If it's your turn, it's your turn. And we're putting you in the game. And like, that to me shows like it doesn't matter who it is. They're that good. All of them. And look, there's pluses and minuses to everyone, right? And it's not like, playing 2 guys and not the other 3, like you're losing something in the other ones. But like, that is just what it is. And so I just think that's true. There's one thing that people keep saying about the defense that I don't think is correct is I've heard a couple of times on, either pods or just in chat or whatever about how in 2018 when Julian Love got hurt and they had to bring in Dante Vaughn, like I do think if Christian Gray went down or Ben Morrison went down, I mean they just moved Gray over. I think the drop off between those two and Jaden Mickey is pretty good. It's not as far as like it was between Julian Love and Dante Vaughn, right? So
Yeah.
the point is correct, but like it's a big difference. It is a very big difference, right? And A&M when Mickey got a series in there, they went after him. They definitely went after him. They got it. I believe they got a catch. I believe they got a pass interference penalty on him. Like, look, I think he's not a liability like Dante Vaughn was, but I just think, I think Christian Gray and BMO are that good. Like they are that good, right? And so I just think the drop is a lot higher. And look, I like Leonard more as much as the next guy, right? But like that's heavily for a freshman, right? We have not seen him in a game. Like I don't think we can just assume that he's going to go in there and be like, top 5 defense caliber corner, right? So I do think that is a little bit of a weakness there that I think people are just kind of assuming isn't the case anymore.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
By mid-October, who is the first corner off the bench?
Mickey.
You think it'll still be Mickey?
Yeah, because first corner off the bench. They don't. I mean, I don't think they're going to take BMO off the field. So it's
right.
kind of like.
I guess that's my point, because you said like when BMO went down, Leonard Moore came in, right? Because he's been training at the boundary corner.
Yeah.
I guess my question would be, do you think that the coaching staff would be willing to train Leonard Moore at the field because there's more of a chance for him to get in the game to come in for Christian Gray as opposed to Benjamin Morrison, which might be a lot to ask of a true freshman.
No, because here's the thing. BMO, I don't think went down. I think he just had to go to the bathroom. That's my
I was actually going to ask you because that was never addressed. I didn't even catch it.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah. It was only like 2-3 plays.
I got a text, like, when you're at a stadium, sometimes the Wi-Fi isn't always great. And I got a text that clearly had been sent while he was out. And it was like, why is BMO not in? And I looked up, and by that point, he was back in the game.
Yeah.
So I was confused, and it didn't seem like Freeman ever mentioned it. That's hilarious. I hope that is true. It's like the Lamar Jackson guy just really had to go.
I think he had to go to the bathroom. And I think that because, he went to the locker room by himself. So someone had said, well, maybe he needed an IV. And I was like, that's possible, but someone would go with him. Like you need trainers to get an IV. He's not going to put his own IV in, and they're not just sitting back there. So like, if he needed an IV, I think they would have gone. I think the fact that he went by himself tells me maybe he just had to pee. Like, and that's it. Like, I think that's what it was. Cause then he came back in, he didn't have anything wrapped. He didn't have anything, any sort of anything. I just think he had to go to the bathroom. And that's
he looked lighter. He looked quicker.
It just that was and
all
look,
the
no
signs are there that he just
yeah, like no one asked about it. I just think that was the deal, and that's fine, right? Like but I don't think.
I agree with you. I just wanted to pose the question because
like I think if BMO for whatever reason was out for let's say he missed a game, people miss a game for whatever reason, I think they would. I mean, I guess it depends on the opponent. I think they'd move. I think they'd move Gray to the boundary and play Mickey. Personally, that's what I think they would do. If it was like Louisville or something, I truly don't know. Like I know they're very excited about Leonard Moore, but like I've never seen him. Like literally, I've never seen the guy.
Yeah,
So
and
I don't.
Benjamin Morrison wasn't freshman All-American Benjamin Morrison right away. Like,
Yeah,
he had a bad game against Syracuse, then it all came together for him against Clemson, but that wasn't until November. Like, we didn't talk about him as that kind of guy until that point of the season, so to ask that of Leonard Moore at this point would be way, way too soon.
yeah. Joel Easton says next defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, Max Bulla. If it's not Mike Mickens,
Yeah, that's
then
true.
it's got to be Mike Mickens, and I think they like him a lot. Like I do think he's prime for it. I would give Max Bulla some sort of title
Yeah.
that was like, "We love you so much." I think he's an absolute star. He truly is. Like he has it, man. Like just talking to
Best
him, like
interview ever.
yeah, not talking to him, but like listening to him in interviews, like you can tell he resonates in that room truly. Like, of course he does, right? Like the way, especially like how linebackers are and the way those guys go about things. I just think he's got it. He's got all you want. Um, what are your vibes right now with the
You
team?
know,
Where are you at?
I'm like in a great space. I'm so excited just in general because football is back. Like, I had a
Yeah.
moment last night. I watched Ravens Chiefs at a bar with a few of my coworkers after work, and like it was a good game, it was an exciting game. And I was driving home and I was like, man, we get 5 straight months of just football all the
Mhm.
time. And it's like the best time of the year. We're both really busy but it's like fun. It's so fun. I think having this Notre Dame team get that win so early on, knowing that there are going to be some struggles. There are definitely going to be some games this season where we're probably going to want to pull our hair out. And that is not even about it's just college football. That's just how it works. Even the best teams don't just like cruise through an undefeated season. So I'm looking forward to the highs and lows. I've been pretty open about the fact that I do expect a bit of a letdown in this game, but like I also understand that it's a long season. They're not going to lose this game. And it might be a slow process with the offense early on, but like getting that win in the season opener, it's on one hand, it's so good when you win. If you lose, it just really just sucks the momentum out of the start of the season. But that's the benefit of playing such a big game to start it off, because now you just have this momentum. The players are happy, the coaches are happy. You can build on that. And I feel great. I'm so excited. I say this now, knock on wood, just so we all know that this isn't a permanent state of affairs. But man, I feel good. I'm excited about this team, and I'm prepared for the peaks and valleys, or at least I say that now. But
Yeah.
on Saturday, if it's like 7-3 at halftime, maybe I won't be as prepared.
See, the thing is like I have this. I don't even know if it's like, I think a lot of people are excited about Riley Leonard. I just think like he's built for it, man. I do.
Yeah, man.
He just seems to have an intangible quality to him that he like. It's no surprise to me, and look, he's handing the ball off, right? So it's not like he has any sort of anything to do with, um, he has nothing to do with Jeremiah Love, going for 21 yards and then going for 21-yard touchdown. Like, but it's just he has a way of figuring it out and finding a way to do it. Like on the last drive, like on the whole game, they can't really do anything. They just I'm thinking to myself, man, this team just they don't have it. Like they don't have the answers. And then he hits the little out. He hits the out to Greathouse. He makes the
That
throw.
was a huge throw.
Yes.
Two defenders
Had,
right there.
had,
If he
had
underthrows
to
that a
have it.
little bit, pick six game.
Right. Had to have it. Knew exactly where he wanted to go to the ball. And or go with the ball. And he did. And then he hits Bo Collins on the throw, which is like, I think people will talk about it like it's a great throw. It is exactly where it needs to be. Next play, they run quarterback pin and pull there. And it's like he runs and he stays in bounds, right? Like because if you look on the replay, he stays in bounds, he looks at the ref, and he does this with his hand. Like he wants the clock to run. And he's so smart in the moment because it's like, hey, we have a chance to just grind this clock all the way down, and we can kick a field goal or score a touchdown with like a minute left, and they're done. Like he recognizes that situation, then ended up running it twice with Love, actually 3 straight times with Love to get into the end zone. But it's just like that stuff where it's like You're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. You're doing nothing. Like he did this against Notre Dame too, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I just think he's built for it. I think he's kind of the goods in that way. Like Newt Rockney is in the chat. Thank you for being here. Sorry about the plane situation. That sucks. That Riley needs to prove he can pass 25 and 30 yards at least. For sure. Like we say that, right? But it's kind of like with Tebow. Like sometimes if you just got it, you got it. And your team wins. However, like it's just so yeah, like I 100%. If they don't throw the ball well in this game, I will be on I'll be on the post game being like, look, you got to throw the ball at some point. And you got to do it. And so but just talking, like just thinking about the team and the vibes and everything and where I think things are, I think he's got it, and I think he's the goods, and I think it's going to be real good for Notre Dame. That's what I say.
And to be honest, for all the viewers and listeners out there, Greg was higher on Riley Leonard than I was when Notre Dame picked him up in the transfer portal. I was glad that they picked someone up because, I mean, no offense to Steve Angeli, but I just felt like this team was too loaded that you don't want to have a quarterback who's developing on the job. I wanted them to go out and get a proven commodity, but I felt like Riley Leonard was still a little bit unproven given the fact that he got hurt through and missed like basically this whole second half of last season. I knew that he had a ton of potential, but then when I started to just think about his running ability and the type of weapon he is in the running game, like we saw it on full display against Texas A&M and on that game-winning touchdown run to Jeremiah Love. A&M has 9 guys in the box. And when he gives the handoff to Jeremiah Love, he plays out the read option, carries it out well. 2 linebackers on Texas A&M both take a step left. Their first step is following Riley Leonard. And then once they realized that the ball was in Jeremiah Love's hands, that split second of hesitation was enough for Love to find the crease and he's gone. Like if that's Sam Hartman, they don't take that false step. And maybe that game-winning touchdown run is just like a good 6-yard run. Yeah. That alone has me excited about what this offense can do. Because even if the passing game isn't there, they are going to be able to rely on their running game to get them through some tough moments like they did against Texas A&M. And I feel confident that with his work ethic and also the skills on the outside with wide receivers, and also once Mitchell Evans comes back, very, very big part of the game is that Mitchell Evans is probably their best receiving option when he's healthy. And he didn't even have that in that game. Cooper Flanagan had that nice catch on the corner, expected a little bit more out of Aridin. But once those guys start to click and they develop chemistry and they're on the same page, I really do expect the passing game to take off. I am just a little concerned. It might take a little bit longer to get there than some fans would hope.
Let me ask you this. Let's say going into the game, let's say, when do you make your prediction?
Usually Wednesdays.
Wednesdays. Okay. Let's say Wednesday, right before you record your show. It comes out, Mitchell Evans is going to play 10 snaps. He's not going to get thrown the ball. Like, he's just like, hey, Mitchell Evans is going to be severely limited.
Before the last game?
Yeah, before the last game. You knew he's not going to have a role. Because I thought he was going to play. Like, I thought he was going to start and play and be an option for them. And he clearly wasn't.
I couldn't believe he was out there for 10 plays. Like, I double-checked that on PFF. I was like,
because they didn't throw him the ball. They didn't almost throw him the ball. It was just, he just didn't he wasn't part of the game plan. And so if you knew that going in, would you have changed your prediction?
I don't know if I would have changed it because I think I was pretty nervous because I felt like the tone around him had changed. I noticed a pretty significant shift in the way that people were talking about him. That is true.
You
so I was on alert.
Did. You were on that.
I was like, wait a second. Because like at the beginning of camp, it was all positive. Like he's out there, he looks great, no knee brace, he's ready to go. And then like a week before, someone, I think it was O'Malley was on this. He said that if this were not Texas A&M, Mitchell Evans would definitely not play. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. They're not ruling him out. I expected him to play more, but I never really looked at him as the reason why they were going to be able to move the ball. But it definitely made me more concerned about my prediction for Notre Dame winning. And it just kind of adds to the importance of that win, that they were able to do it without one of their better guys. And I think that it's like, remember in 2019 when Cole Kmet missed the first couple games that year while he was, I think he was recovering from like a broken collarbone.
Collarbone, yeah.
And Notre Dame's offense did not look good at the start of the year, really. I mean, Tommy Tremble played pretty well against like Louisville, but they came out slow. And then they go up against Georgia, and you're like, man, how are they going to move the ball on offense? And then he comes in, and it's like, oh, that's right. He is the best player on this offense. And they just fed him the ball all game. And then you looked at the entire offense differently. I don't know if Mitchell Evans is going to be as good as Cole Kmet. I don't think he's going to be that far away if he's not. But I think once he comes back to this offense, it's going to be a reminder like, oh, yeah, that's what they were missing. And then all of a sudden it's going to click a little bit more.
Yeah. You see him out there and you say, that's what it's supposed to look like. Right.
Right.
And you want it to look like how it's supposed to look like. And if you need that from your media company, then you need to go to VSR Media. They will make it how it's supposed to look. Founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh, VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive your first project. Visit them online and give them a call at 574-800-9106. Zach likes the Friday show template. He likes the I think maybe, are you talking about like the graphic in the back behind us? Because I had to change it. I started the show with the Hit and Hustle one. I was like, this is not Hit and Hustle. I need to. We're branding it different, Tyler.
You had a new logo too. I noticed that too when we were waiting for the show to start. I was like, I like it. We got good branding.
Thank you, Tyler. We work hard at Irish Sports Daily. Yeah. So I get Mitchell Evans involved. I'm just like, it's just, I'm kind of at the point where it's like you dare to dream kind of thing, Like I think that Riley Leonard is the goods. It's just really the passing game.
Yeah, there's got to be something, right?
And the O line is a part of that, right? Because look, for as much as I love that Riley Leonard is a competitor and things of that nature, like it's also be a competitor while also throwing accurate passes and throwing it to the guy that you're supposed to. So that's that. What are you doing for the game this week? What are you just watching? I assume you're just staying in LA. What is your game situation?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting year for me. So I graduated in 2018 and immediately started working in sports media. And pretty much every single fall since then, I have had to work literally every single Saturday because I was in like the college football space.
Yes.
This year, I actually have several Saturdays off, and it is an amazing feeling. I'm going to just be able to watch this game at home in my apartment, hoping for a nice and easy afternoon. We'll see how it goes. And then in the evening, I'm going to my Cleveland Guardians are in town playing the Dodgers. So we've got Texas, Michigan in the morning, Notre Dame, Northern Illinois in the early afternoon window for us starting at 12:30. And then in the nighttime, Guardians, Dodgers, and Dodger Stadium. So it's shaping up to be a pretty awesome Saturday. I'm really hoping for a nice, relaxing day. And I hope that we're all in the post game just like, that was really nice. They just handled their business like they were supposed to. And we're not pulling our hair out or anything like that. But I'm excited. It's good to be able to just watch it at home and not have to like kind of hide all my emotions when I'm surrounded by coworkers.
How do you you say hide your emotions? How do you react during games? Like what is your vibe?
I've gotten really good at just stifling everything if I'm around people. Like I had to endure the Marshall game surrounded by like 4 different people. And I just go mute, basically. I just like kind of suppress it all. And every once in a while, there'll be like a little, like, I don't know, like a spasm. It'll just come out of me. I'll say something like, let's go, like, tweaking. But like,
oh, man.
I'm pretty good at it. Now, when I'm home, I get into it. I talk to the TV. My dad loves to make fun of me because this happened. This started when I was like a kid. I'd be like 3 years old, be like, Dad, 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 like look, pointing at the screen. He's like, dude, would you get out of the way? So I could be a talker depending on who I'm with. I think this Saturday might be just like me and a couple of my friends. So there'll be probably some F-bombs thrown around, but I'll get pretty animated when I'm home alone. I do enjoy the release and not having to suppress my emotions, because even though I'm good at it, it's just not fun. It's not a fun place to be.
Yeah, man, it's tough. I think now I'm very quiet, like, well, because I'm also kind of working, right? Like
Yeah.
I do think about the game, and I take in the game a lot different than I used to, like maybe 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
Plus, like the kids are older now, and so they're like really watching me. And
How
Amy's
is the
kind of
brainwashing going? Are they
they
all into
don't
it?
no that's not a thing. Like like I think my son is close. I think my daughter, so my oldest, she um if she's there, like she definitely wants Notre Dame to win because she wants
Mhm.
me to be happy. But like I coached her flag football team, so like she understands the game now. Like she understands first down. She understands, running the ball, like why they do motions, like why. So like there's a part of it where she gets,
That's cool. Yeah.
so she can just sit there and watch. Um, but she's not like, oh, I want to sit there with dad and watch this game. That's not her vibe. But it's just I have to be careful because they get, last year for Ohio State, like that's a perfect example of like I totally lost composure at the end. Like I
I don't blame
listen,
you at all.
I lost my mind. Like when DJ Brown dropped the pick, I screamed. I screamed. Um I I was screaming, they're gonna lose, like 100% they're losing. You can't, if every time you drop it, they always make you pay. Like that's
Every
how it
time.
works.
Every time.
Like they always do. If you have a chance to end the game, you have to end the game. And they didn't, and I knew. And so I was mad. And to be honest, like I was mad for the stream afterwards because I didn't want to do it. Is the only time I didn't
Dude,
want to do a
power
stream.
to you, man. I can't
I did
believe you
not.
did it.
Jamie and I, we were sitting there before, and I said, I don't want to do this. I don't. I've been good. Like the Stanford game, I did not care. Right, but
Yeah.
Marshall, it was whatever. Like we got to talk about it. The Ohio State game, I was sitting there, like I don't want to do this.
So
I
you were
don't want.
broken too. You're
Yeah,
right
I
there with
was.
me.
I was like, I don't want to do. And the funny thing is this is before. So like we found out about 10 men on the field in real time
Yeah.
because people were in the chat talking about Notre Dame had 10 on the field, and I was like, what? Like, is that true? I go to Twitter. It's all over Twitter. It's like, and I was like, Jamie, they had 10 on the field, and
In the
he's like,
spot.
and he's like, no, and I was like, yeah, they did. And so then we were pulling up like screenshots of them. It just, that's the only time. And so then, but like the kids were there and I was screaming. And so then they were like, Dad is getting upset.
Yeah.
So
So
ever
for
since
me, I
then,
think when things are going bad, I go back and I think Vamos Irish has said in the chat, I'm an emotional turtle. That's actually a pretty good way to put it. Because when things are bad, I stop talking. I like
yes, yeah,
sit there and I'm like suppressing the emotion. And like if there's a bad interception, I might be like, come on, or whatever. When things are good, I'll like, get up, especially now, like living with my girlfriend who doesn't care at all about football. And like I'll do it almost like to annoy her, to be like overly
yeah,
happy and obnoxious
yes,
about how much I'm enjoying it. But in that Ohio State game, like that last drive, I feel like every time I go on a podcast, we somehow get back to this. Not specifically with you, just in general.
mm-hmm.
That last drive, I'll give you some inside info. There was through a source at Fox, talked to Ryan Day, and like when they were still trying to figure out who the quarterbacks were, whether it be McCord or Devin Brown. He's like, I just don't think either of them have it. Like at the end of the game, I
Yeah,
don't trust either one. So the whole drive, I'm telling my dad, he's going to make a mistake. He's going to make a mistake. And then he did it. We didn't capitalize, and then they ended up scoring. But I didn't say a word. I was like so numb that I didn't even react until like we got in the car and left, and I probably didn't say anything until 15 minutes. And the first thing I said was, they had 10 men. Just like, that's it. Like, that's all I could muster out at that moment was just like, they had 10. But that was last year. This is this year. There was a chance Notre Dame absolutely could have folded in that environment. And it honestly could have been Ohio State 2.0, where they were like the better team and many opportunities to win. And this time they actually did. So rather than reliving all the pain and misery, which we have a tendency to do, for all of those reasons, that's why I'm a little bit more optimistic about this year, because they have already proved in game one that they can win those types of games. And that's a big reason why I'm so optimistic for the rest of the road.
Yeah. Are you good on time?
Yeah.
Okay. So one last thing. So I've told this story before, but not on, not recently. Maybe it was on another pod. I'm on a few pods. So I might have told the story at a different place, but the worst one was when with Amy, who was my then girlfriend. And so we weren't even engaged yet. This is 2011 Michigan. And she had just moved to LA. She had just moved back. And we went to a Notre Dame Michigan watch party with her coworkers. And so
I went
and
fans in LA, man. A lot of Michigan fans.
There were no Michigan fans at the
okay.
game. Thankfully, they were all like a bunch of Notre Dame grads. And but the game was on, and I was already like on edge because they had just lost to South Florida, and I was upset about that. And I knew the team was pretty good, just from a talent standpoint. And obviously, the game goes the way it went. And this is her new firm now. So it's like, these are professionals, right?
Oh, no.
These are working professionals, right? And I'm at this game, just like, I'm at this thing, just getting madder and madder, and I'm getting more and more upset.
But everyone's watching, right?
Everyone's watching, for sure.
Okay,
but
I didn't want you to be like in a corner. Okay.
And the thing is like, everyone's getting into it, right? So it wasn't that I was over the top and everyone was like chill. That wasn't true. Like, everyone was kind of into it, but at the end, everyone just kind of bounced back and went about the party, right? The game watch party. Everyone was chilling, drinking. And I sat down in the corner, like on the wall. I just sat there and just looked out, like talking to no one. And she is mortified.
Just muttering like, Gary Gray.
And they're just like, is Greg okay? Like, and she's like, I think so, right? Like, I think he's fine. He just like likes Notre Dame a lot. And I was like, this is, I can't. And I told her afterwards, I was like, I'm sorry. I apologize. That wasn't great. Like, that was not good. And
funny.
I'm not emotionally able to deal with anyone right now. And so that's kind of where I was.
And look at that. You guys ended up getting engaged.
And look, now we've been married for over 10 years now. And we have beautiful children, 3 beautiful children. So that's good.
It's not easy to be in an environment like that when you care about it so much. And it's just like, sometimes I feel like I'm pretty mature and I can handle this stuff. Like, I thought, so with early on when I was dating my girlfriend of like the past 3+ years, we watched, the first time that we ever watched a game together was Notre Dame Cincinnati 2021. And it was because she was in dental school at the time. And there was like some thing, we were in Boston. It was like this big event, like nice, had to dress up nice, but we were in the hotel during the day. So it was a nighttime thing. So we're watching the game and I'm watching it by myself and she's just kind of getting ready, doing her own thing. And I'm every once in a while I might yell something or whatever. Mostly it's fine. Then she's like, hey, my friends are going to come over and we like might pregame here for a little bit before we go to this thing. I was like, here? Like, we could go to any other room, like any other one. Like, by this point, Notre Dame is down. Like, it's not looking good. And I was fine. I mean, at that point, you kind of knew the team wasn't that great. And I had actually predicted Cincinnati would beat them before the season. So I wasn't like shocked that they were struggling to win that game. But obviously, the way that the game was going was just like really frustrating. And she's like, well, yeah, like we have the biggest room. I was like, yeah, but like, look at the TV. She's like, well, you've been pretty quiet. I'm like, yeah, but like I feel a lot better because no one else is in here. So I lost that one. The friends came over, and then Notre Dame starts coming back. So I'm in a great mood. I'm shaking hands. I'm introducing myself. And then it went south, and I just went back to being mute. And then I just kind of like sucked it up for a little bit. And then when I was at the event that night, I would just have moments where I just like come back. And I was like, we really can't block a soul, can we? And then, so I actually got through the hard part, but I probably wasn't the best hang that night after the Cincinnati game.
Okay. All right. Here you go. So are you old enough to remember the coverage map?
No, I don't think so.
You don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. So there was a time when if Notre Dame played on the road, there was the coverage map, and it was the whole big thing where it's like, where is ABC?
Oh, yeah, it's kind of like NFL.
Yeah.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
So so you had to like, are they showing the Notre Dame game in my area, basically? And if not, then you got to do pay-per-view, right? Okay, so this was 1999, right? So my high school girlfriend and I had just graduated, and so we graduated in the summer of '99. And then we, like, at the beginning of the school year, we both went to college, and we ended up breaking up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it happens. Happened to me.
We had dated for like 2 years, right? So I knew her dad, I knew her mom, right? Like I knew everybody, and she was away, and I don't know why we couldn't get the game at my house, my parents' house, but the Notre Dame Purdue game in 1999 was showing at her parents' house. So I called her mom and I was like, hey, can I come over and watch the Notre Dame game at your house? And she wasn't there. Like my ex was not there at the time. So I went over to my ex's house her parents' house, and I watched the Notre Dame Purdue game in their house. And if you recall that game, I don't know if you do,
right?
They lost in just like the worst way. Like they had first and goal.
I'm looking it up, 23-28. I don't know. I was young.
If it is the worst game management you've ever seen in your life, like it was. If this happened now, the internet would explode. Every post game show would just be like going nuts. And this is and so I am at their house like, this is insane. How can Bob Davie do this again? Because he had just ruined the Michigan game.
Yeah,
I mean, they go out to kick some kind of field goal, and for whatever reason, or they're going to spike it. There's like 15 people on the field. Total disaster. And I'm watching this at my ex-girlfriend's parents' house.
Okay, I want to end on some positive ones because we've been reliving some horrific memories.
Okay,
I actually have one that actually resulted well for Notre Dame. Okay, so this is 2012. I was in high school at the time, and Notre Dame was playing Pitt. And this is the week after the Oklahoma game, and Notre Dame came out flat. They looked terrible. Well, that day was my sister's confirmation. So we've got family in town, and I've got some side of my dad's brother's family. They all like Notre Dame because my grandpa liked Notre Dame. But other than that, most of my family, they're Ohio State fans because we grew up in Ohio.
Yeah.
So we had a mixed bag of family, if I recall. Some people were definitely rooting for Notre Dame. Some people were definitely not. But anyway, we're at the house. We're watching Notre Dame Pitt, and it's an ugly game. Notre Dame is not playing well. And again, like, vibes were so high after the Oklahoma game. So I'm in such a wretched mood. Like we go to the church, and I am furious because the last thing we saw was like a Kyle Brinza field goal to cut it. Like Notre Dame was still down. And so then we go to church, and my mom probably had to give me a talking to, because it's, we're going to church and I'm like thinking the worst possible things in my head. And I was like probably 16 at the time. So we're going through this mass and I'm not paying attention at all to my sister's confirmation. All I could think about is what's going on in this game. And my phone is buzzing. And at the time, if I pulled out my phone in church, my mom, it would have been a bad sight.
Yeah.
So the mass ends, and I cannot wait to get to my phone to figure out what happened. And we get out, and there's like some sort of like post confirmation thing going on, and I didn't have service. I'm panicking. And then finally realized that I was like, they won, like screaming in front of all these random people I was like, oh my God, they won. And like, no one knew what I was talking about. None. And my family, I think they were like mortified. I'm so happy. And like, I don't even think I've said congratulations to my sister at this point. I'm so much more concerned about the Pitt game. And, I just remember being like so happy the rest of the day. I was in the best spirits ever. And then we went home and saw what happened. And I was like, honestly, it's probably a good thing that I didn't watch that, because I think my heart would have stopped. Where were you during that game?
The Pitt game?
Yeah.
The Pitt game. I was just in my condo by myself watching that.
Probably the best environment to be.
Yeah, that was, I watched the whole thing. I don't have a good story about that. The Oklahoma game was interesting because we were meeting up with friends. We watched it in a Notre Dame bar. Oh God, where was it? It was in West LA. And then we were meeting some.
I don't know if that's the Notre Dame bar.
I couldn't even remember. Yeah. I know we watched the Notre Dame bar. We watched it until Notre Dame the pass to Chris Brown. So they tied it. They hit the long pass to Chris Brown, and they had taken the lead 20-13 at that point. And we had to leave and go to meet our friends at a restaurant. And Amy was like, do you want to put on the radio? And I was like, no. Like, I'm just going to, I don't want to do that. And like, so I'm kind of weird about how I'm very like, I don't want to say superstitious because I don't have a thing. It's just like in the moment, sometimes it's like, no, I'm just going to check it.
Feel right.
Yeah. I'm going to check it when I know the game is over. Right. Okay. And so we get in the car and I'm driving and I'm thinking, all I can do, like, we're not talking in the car. All I can do is think about the game. What's happening? What's going on? And we park, we're waiting, our friends come and they're like, hey Greg, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing, we're just hanging out,
just chilling.
And Amy's like, Greg's thinking about the game. And they're like, oh, what's going on? I was like, just don't tell me. And they're like, do you want to check? I was like, I don't want to check. Like, I don't want to do that. And so then we get to the restaurant and they're like, all right, why don't you just check? Like, the game's definitely over now. And so I look and it's like, 20-13 last time I saw. So now I'm just kind of like, oh God, like, what am I going to see when I look down at this? And it says, 30-13. And I'm just like, yes. and it was okay because it was in a restaurant, but I was unhinged.
I don't blame you. I actually have a very similar one. It wasn't by choice though. So it was 2018. I actually was supposed to work like that night, and I went home to my parents' place in Louisville. So this is like my first year out of college, and I went home and Notre Dame was playing USC that night, obviously, like last game before they hopefully go to the playoff. So I scheduled my flight early. In the hopes that I could get back, go to work. I'm going to just watch the game there, deal with just a travel nightmare, delays, cancellations, all this stuff. And then I watched the first 3 quarters of the Notre Dame USC game in 2018 at a Chili's in the Detroit airport. And the game's not going that well. And I'm like, oh my God, are they going to lose? So fortunately, I figured out, I was like, okay, the Delta flight that I'm on is going to have TVs. So I'm like not that panicked yet about missing the game. It's like, okay, annoying that I got to leave to get on this flight. I'm going to be able to watch fourth quarter on the plane. Well, my thing didn't work and none of them were working. So I'm freaking out on the plane. I tried to buy the Wi-Fi so I could just keep up with the score. Like whatever, like the universe was not going to let me stay up to date on this Notre Dame USC game. And I tried everything. I would not let up. I was trying to do everything I could to possibly like watch the game or at least get updates, something, because I'm going through like this like anxiety attack on the plane about, is Notre Dame really going to blow this in the last game USC? Well, finally, there was a moment where I just had to give up. I was like, it's just not happening. I'm just not going to know. I'm not going to know until this plane lands. So it's a long flight from Detroit to Connecticut, where I was living at the time. And I mean, I was sweating probably. I probably had terrible BO. I feel bad for the guy next to me. I'm just sitting there. I'm just looking out and I'm like, what's going to happen? And we land and I pull out my phone. I just had like a moment to myself. I'm like, this is going to be like the greatest relief ever, or I am going to cause a scene. And I just saw the score. And it's literally like that one meme of the guy where he's like it just leans back. And I was just like, I think I said the quietest, like, let's effing go in my life. Cause I just was like, it was such a relief. And I was like, oh my God. But it was 2 hours of pent up and just the uncertainty. And then I didn't even get to, I mean, it still sucks because I didn't get to see the Tony Jones play live. I didn't get to feel like the excitement, but the sigh of relief, that alone is something I'm never going to forget.
I think that game was the least fun I've ever had watching a game.
Yeah,
I hated that game up until like Tony Jones scored. It was terrible. That was an awful USC team. Awful. I remember
thinking like JT Daniels was going to be awesome.
Oh God, they played like 3 walk-ons on defense. God, that was so bad. That was such an unfun game to watch. Good experience though.
Yeah. So I watched all the bad stuff. I missed.
Yeah.
That was just an awful day for me.
Oh God, what an awful one that was. Jesus. So, all right. Well, look, we think this weekend's going to go a lot better, and we're excited about the team. We're excited about how things go. We're gonna let you go, Tyler.
I appreciate it. This is a ton of fun, man.
A ton of fun. I love the Friday shows. This is a new thing we got going on. We're building up the base. We got stuff going on. We're getting things going. So we're gonna be back here next Friday as well. Enjoy the game, everyone. Jamie and I will be on after the game is over, about 5-10 minutes after for the post game show. I'm gonna have the morning after recap on Sunday, so that'll be around 10 a.m. Eastern time, 7 Pacific, and that's how it's gonna be. So have a good weekend, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy the rest of enjoy your weekend. We'll talk to you soon, and see you on Saturday.
Cheers.